In Richmond, Virginia, the second round of the East Region continues as the Tar Heels of North Carolina meet the Red Raiders of Texas Tech. The last spot in Atlanta is up for grabs. UMass and Arkansas advancing out of the Providence region. Georgetown has advanced earlier today here in Richmond. And we welcome you back to Richmond, everybody, with Larry Farmer and Ted Robinson. A lot of folks may have trouble understanding Texas Tech's the higher seed in this game. They have lost only one game all year, but they're really playing for respect today, Larry.
They really are, and that's hard to believe with a 29-1 record. You don't get 29 wins if you're not any good. But certainly playing a team like North Carolina will give Texas Tech an opportunity to make that record prove good.
The other three teams you see there all were #1 seeds. Texas Tech, despite that one loss, a #3 seed. Today they play the North Carolina name, the North Carolina mystique, and a great backcourt. Jeff McInnes of North Carolina, 25 points here on Friday night, and just a masterful floor game.
He really did. In addition to the 25 points, he had 11 assists. And what McInnes was able to do on the perimeter is lull the defense to sleep and penetrate and take the ball into that 3-second area, and he just set up scoring opportunities for himself or for Serge Zwicker.
And senior Dante Calabria today playing in his 13th career NCAA tournament game. So that's the great experience that Carolina has, is the McInnes-Calabria backcourt combination. And it has to be experienced there because the front court is young. Freshman forwards for UNC and Jamison and Okulaja. Meanwhile, for Texas Tech, they start 4 seniors in their lineup, including Jason Sasser, who is Southwest Conference Player of the Year. Texas Tech's going to need their senior guards, Coy Smith and Jason Martin, to match up well with the Carolina backcourt.
When they're in man-to-man, and again, that's where the whole psyche of this game is going to start, is in the backcourt. Texas Tech's players need to get their knees bent, play tough, smart defense, and see how many opportunities they can create in the open court.
Dean Smith in his 35th season Friday won his 61st career game in the NCAA tournament. A remarkable achievement. Young James Dickey in his 5th year as Texas Tech head coach, longtime assistant to Eddie Sutton, both at Arkansas and at Kentucky. And on Friday, James Dickey won his first ever NCAA tournament game. North Carolina will wear blue as the lower seed in this game. Texas Tech in their home white. Tim Higgins is the lead official, working with Gene Manji and Frank Fasoni. Jamison and Tony Petit will jump at center, and Petit puts it well into the backcourt, and Jason Martin corrals it for the Red Raiders.
Petit tipped that ball so far back, but wisely tipping it to the corner. He tipped that straight back. He might have given North Carolina an opportunity to run that down and get a score.
Shot missing by Petit, and Antoine Jamison rebounds. Now it's Jason Martin matching up with McInnes. Going to give McInnes about a 5 or 6 inch height advantage.
When you give up that much height, you got to make up for it with quickness and try and stay in front of McInnes, not allow him to penetrate.
Well, McInnes got right in, and Jamison follows.
So much of the offense of North Carolina is generated off dribble penetration.
Sasser is kicking Darvin Ham. A minute in, we're tied at 2. Here's Zwicker. And it's cleared by Petit. And Martin got the lane. Jamison clears it.
And that's why so often you hear coaches talk about using the glass on layup. It's good block by the team.
Well, Texas Tech moving. Sasser handles to Ham for his second slam.
Texas Tech played Northern Illinois 2 nights ago. Ham, virtually the same role, the same situation. First 3 baskets that he made, 2 of them came virtue of the slam dunk.
Larry, do you think Carolina wants to slow this? Steal by Smith. And he's hammered and fouled by Okulaja.
See Sasser in the middle with the ball, not your classic point guard, but he steps to the left to avoid the charge. Nice dish. Now, Ham really doesn't get his legs underneath him, which is why he doesn't explode. And there you see the really good anticipation in the open court by Coy Smith. Has no intentions of passing that basketball. He realizes that Okulaja has no choice except to try and catch up with him and either foul or attack the shot. Smart play by Smith.
Back to the point about tempo, Larry. Do you think Carolina wants to play this at a slower tempo?
Oh, absolutely. They want to get you in that half court and allow McGinnis a chance to operate against your defense. North Carolina will run off misses or when they have opportunities, but certainly a track meet and you play 7-8 players, you really don't want to get into that kind of a game, especially early in this first half.
Texas Tech up 3. Boyce Smith playing Calabria. Jamison played by Petit. And Jamison hits the shot.
Good half-court offense, good execution, the inside-out game by North Carolina. They drop back now in that 2-3 zone. Now, this will also slow the pace of the game down.
This year's Carolina team, which not a great defensive team, played more zone than any Tar Heel team in many, many years under Dean Smith. Zwicker with a rebound.
Zwicker will be a big factor in that zone defense, not only for that reason, defensive rebounding, but also against penetration and the opportunity for putbacks, his ability to change or block shots.
3 for McGinnis. And the Tar Heels have the lead.
The last 2 scores from North Carolina, a lot of time off the clock, the ball going inside, coming back outside, the perimeter player wide open due to the penetration of the pass, and an easy shot.
T, when he put that ball down, McGinnis reached in and is called for the foul.
Zwicker was in pretty good position that time to keep Petit from penetrating on the up fake. It's a good idea by McGinnis to help down from the perimeter to defend against the dribble, but not to reach in and commit that silly foul.
There's a walk. Jason Sasser called for the running start and says, "Thank you, Frank Lassoni, for making that call." I think that's what he said, wasn't it?
A little southern charm by Sasser. He smiles at Lassoni. Probably whispers, "Please don't call it on me again."
McGinnis is running down low, and Jamison all by himself. One of the country's best freshmen, Antoine Jamison, has scored 6 already. Sasser answers. That into the 7-point North Carolina run.
If you notice, when Sasser caught the ball that time, he caught it and immediately put the ball on the floor. Didn't catch it in face, and that really aided him in not making a decision or making it easy for the out official to watch his feet and risk the travel.
Travel call on Jamison. Going into the first timeout, North Carolina up 2 on Texas Tech.
Everybody came in with this freshman type thing. You know, once you start playing, you know, get into the season, you're not a freshman anymore. And I think, you know, most people use that word freshman to, you know, make mistakes and things like that. But, you know, right now you don't feel young. You know, you feel like you've been in this business about 4 or 5 years right now.
Antoine Jamison exploding onto the ACC scene this year as one of the best freshmen in the country. 32 games into his college career, but I've still got to believe there's something about playing in your first tournament. How about Tony Petit knocking down the 3?
25% from behind the arc coming into this game, 3 of 12. Start knocking those down. He's going to be telling Coach Dickey, I need to shoot a few more of these to stretch the defense in North Carolina.
And that puts Texas Tech up by a point. James Dickey looks a little bit better today. He was weakened severely by the stomach flu Friday, and when we spoke with him yesterday afternoon, he still hadn't eaten anything solid. Lean in by McGinnis. Why, it was so tough for Jason Martin to defend that.
Martin's got to play off McGinnis, give him about a step and a half, and if he gives him anything early on, make him prove himself from behind the arc. Make him shoot the outside shot, but off dribble penetration, it just opens up so many areas of what North Carolina likes to do offensively.
And a timeout. Tony Battie, pinned on the baseline, calls a 20-second timeout to avoid the turnover.
Now you watch Zwicker right here on the inside. He's following the ball. It's good position. As soon as that ball comes in, the defense rotates down. Zwicker has him right there, hands up. There's absolutely no place for Battie to pass the basketball.
Serge Zwicker with a tremendous game against New Orleans Friday night. They've gotten a lot more out of Zwicker than many people ever thought the Heels would. Sasser knocks down a 2.
Sasser's game, very good, very compact from about 10 to 12 feet on and in. He starts to step out and knock down that 15-foot shot. That's really going to set up everything he really likes to do on the inside.
That's out of bounds. Calabria slamming the ball off Coy Smith. And North Carolina will keep it. Both teams shooting well early. 63% for Tech, 67% for North Carolina. Vince Carter, another freshman in for the Tar Heels, replacing Okulaja. Calabria right to the basket with the left hand.
Again, right now, Texas Tech really falling into coming out on the perimeter, not giving good cushion or good spacing, and they're allowing the guards of North Carolina, Calabria and McGinnis, to penetrate.
It looks like Texas Tech's Battie's intent on trying to get Zwicker out from the basket. Battie with a rebound. Ham. Good fast break by Texas Tech.
Ham utilizing his quickness in the open court. He realizes that anytime Tech gets the ball, if he can sprint down the floor and beat his man, that's the first layup I think I've seen him have in this tournament so far. He's finished all those plays off with dunks.
Vince Carter missing the 3. And Battie rebounds for the Red Raiders.
And that was a good box out by Battie at 220, going up against Zwicker at 270.
Battie and Zwicker starting to get to know each other inside.
Hello. And you see Zwicker didn't even blink. I tell Battie, you better get a little more muscle on you before you want to get my attention. That's the kind of play that goes on between two big men on the inside, and as long as it's not vicious, that's how the game is played.
And a steal by Calabria. Forearm shivers work down low, don't they?
Letting him know that I'm there.
Jameson, he's fouled, score the basket.
Jameson very versatile on that low post. The ability to turn either over the right shoulder or left shoulder. You see here, he turns to the inside, hangs in the air, and that gives him an opportunity to really focus and get a clear look at where that basket is. He draws the foul, and because he's so strong, he's able to knock it down.
It appeared the other part of that move was, Larry, he's so quick. Didn't give the defender much of a chance to react.
Absolutely. In the low post, a lot of that game is played with strength, but so much of the nuances are created by those quick ideas, knowing where the basket is and making the appropriate snap decision.
A three-point play, 9 for Jameson. Zwicker and Battie just getting a little warning about the contact down low. And here's Corey Carr missing his first shot off the bench. The Texas Tech sixth man, who scores 16 a game. Ball Sasser. Oh, look at Ham! Oh! one way to bring the house down, bring the rim down.
Ham jam.
And the crews go right to work. And we will have, obviously, a delay. Thought those snapback rims were supposed to stop that from happening.
I guess not with that kind of force. See Sasser taking it one-on-one. He draws the defense. Nobody accounts for Ham. He comes in, and it's not so much the force of him dunking the ball down, but as he dunks the ball down, you watch his arms. He's going to pull on the rim and pull it away from the basket, and that's where, right there, watch him pull the rim away from the backboard and just separates it. Hey, I'm not letting that guy ever come over and play on my backdoor rim.
Well, it's showman-like, it's acrobatic, it brings a roar from the crowd. It's also not going to help the players because obviously there will be a delay. There is glass shattered all the way. Oh, and look at Ham. He actually now has found out he's been nicked a little bit. There's glass all the way to the foul line in front of the Texas Tech bench. So we're going to obviously have a delay of some time here in Richmond as they will need to replace the backboard. And this all comes with 12:06 to go in the first half of a game that is tied at 16.
I saw that happen one other time. Daryl Dawkins did that in an exhibition game.
Daryl made an art out of that, didn't he? Well, we obviously will be stuck for a while here in Richmond. And while we await the replacement of the backboard, we'll get you caught up with what's going on elsewhere in the tournament as we send you back to Pat O'Brien.
All right, Ted, thank you. Not more than 7 days ago, little Sean O'Brien said, "Daddy, did the backboards ever break?" And I said, "No." So, Sean, I apologize. Let's go out to Milwaukee now, where Villanova and Louisville are matching it up. 19-12 is the score of Villanova. Let's go to Jim Nance and Billy Packer.
Dantzler missing the shot, and Kittles with the rebound. He's really having a good afternoon. 8 points, 3 rebounds. Villanova leads by 7.
And coaching the team on the floor as well, Jim, in motions as well as verbally.
Alvin Williams, air ball.
Anytime you see a shot like that, you know somebody got a piece of the elbow.
Look at Kittles. He's got 3 fast break buckets to put Villanova ahead. Villanova 19-12. Jim Nance, Billy Packer courtside. I was in the studio the first 2 days. Didn't get to get your thoughts. You get a chance to get your thoughts on the tournament so far.
Well, my thoughts are that the Big East and the SEC are putting on quite a show, Jim, particularly the Big East, not only in the wins, but the domination in the games they played.
Rocky Walker traveled, and that took away what would have been a certain 2 for Louisville.
Now, I'll tell you something that was a mistake by Louisville. Sabaki Walker went out and was sitting down, and they didn't do anything to fix his pants. Now, this has made it seem like a small issue, but it is really affecting the way the kid's playing in the game. Somebody should have got some tape.
They need a tailor.
Yeah, well, I don't know about a tailor. Get some tape and just keep them up. Celestine in the ball game. Ill-advised pass.
Freshman Celestin, John Celestin, picked off by Sims, breaking and scoring at the other end.
There was a case where if he'd have just been a little bit more patient, he had Sims on Lawson. I realize Sims is a good leaper, but Lawson could have posted him up. He just wasn't patient enough to wait.
Inside, a left hand lobs it over Walker.
That was as fundamentally as sound a change of direction before you dribble that you can see.
He's made 5 out of 6 from the field as Kittles.
Young man, of course, went through that 3-game suspension. Remember, Jim, we went and talked to him on the bus. He was so embarrassed. Really a quality individual.
Sims 3. Really struggling from the outside is Louisville.
Well, we're looking at a team that had Wheat just go crazy the other day against Tulsa, and now he's on the bench. Has been no factor in this game.
Kittles not this time. Walker rebounds. Louisville 1 of 9 from behind the line. Jay Flynn driving. He'll head to the line.
Pretty good job by Flynn. He realized that the defense was giving him the right-hand lane and just took advantage of it. North Carolina, Texas Tech. How about you can't get them any closer than that? 16-16, 12-12, huh?
Yep. Santa Clara, Kansas later on, and Texas Wake Forest right here from Milwaukee.
You know, that Santa Clara, interesting situation, Jim. We had Portland in here the other day. You looked at the personnel, the level of personnel at Portland, taking nothing away from the outstanding year they had within their league. But it's hard to believe that Santa Clara could be the kind of team could advance past Maryland and on to Kansas now after watching the personnel that Portland had to play with.
Oh, Sims came crashing through.
How about that second bounce by Sims?
What a persistence. He could get up, I'll tell you. He's really something else. Alvin Sims cuts it to 4, 21-17.
And they're doing it without Weed having the big ab. Flynn right out on Celestin. Ebers. The second wide open look for Ebers, and he's missed both of them. You're looking at one of the best pure shooters in the country. He'll normally knock those down. There's that zone back in there again.
Kaiser gave it up last second. Walker for 2.
You know, Jim, I may mention Villanova was in great shape with a man-to-man defense. They were up 17-10. They go to the zone. Now they find themselves just up by 2.
They call it 20.
I don't know why they changed the pace of their defense when it was so effective man-to-man. And there's Samaki using that rim to shield the defender.
Kaiser doing a good job of disguising it. Looked like a shot. Gave it up last second.
And how about Lawson? Nothing he could do because the rim was in his way for the block attempt.
So Denny Crum's team is now only down 2. DeJuan Wheat not getting a chance to really get going offensively. Wheat's only been to the line to score points today. Meanwhile, Eric Ebers of Villanova is 0 for 4 from the field. And when they lost last year, the Wildcats, to Old Dominion in the first round, Ebers was 0 for 5 in that one. Wheat's 0 for 2 at the other end.
Backdoor cut by Kittles.
Lawson, outside he goes to Kerry for the nice stroke, and 3.
Well, Kerry Kittles was not the guy that let Villanova down last year in that Old Dominion game, and he's not doing it today either. The only performance I saw Kittles play, an unusual game for him, was against Temple this year. He stood around in that ball game. Temple's great zone shut him down completely, but normally he is terror out there.
Kaiser off the shot clock, and Villanova ball.
There's Kaiser for the second time taking a 3 that really wasn't a good look for him. And you're not, as you mentioned, Jim, up there around 50% from 3. He likes to have square up situation more than moving with the ball or off the dribble.
Alvin Williams back directing the Villanova attack. Celestin out. Lawson almost out of script and does. Back to Williams, though. Ebers working baseline, and Ebers called for the charge.
Having a tough day all around. Plus he got hurt on that play.
Senior from Buffalo collects his first. Villanova 24-19.
Villanova leading 24-19. Want to get you up to date on what's going on at your game out in Richmond, and North Carolina and Texas Tech knotted at 16. The NCAA is prepared for things like this. Darvin Ham went up for a dunk and the backboard broke. But they're putting a new backboard in, and it's going to take them about 15 more minutes to get everything hooked up and screwed in and get the game underway again. Darvin Ham, by the way, is okay. He suffered a superficial cut on his left arm, but there's the brand new spanking backboard, and they'll be in play shortly. I'd say about 15 minutes from now. In the meantime, let's take you to another game out in Orlando where Georgia Tech trails Boston College by 3. Let's go to Bill Raftery and Sean McDonough.
10:35 remaining in the first half. And it's now a 1-point game as Michael Maddox knocks one in from the elbow for Georgia Tech. He has 6 points on 3 out of 4 shooting. It's been closely contested throughout, a back-and-forth game. pace, we thought, the key coming in, Bill, and BC's done a pretty good job of keeping it a slow pace.
And not the kind of play that's typical BC. Yeah, controlling tempo, very important, because Georgia Tech uptick likes to give it up to one another.
Cincinnati beat Temple here earlier this afternoon to advance to the Sweet 16. They'll play the winner of this game with the Bearcats in Lexington next weekend. 3 ties in this game and 6 lead changes. Barry bidding to make it 7, and he did. Unfortunately, no broken backboards here they've had in the Texas Tech game.
We're playing on. That middle has been open a couple of times. Barry made a pass earlier. That time, nice cut. As they exchange people, they've got to close bodies, BC. They got 2-on-1 here. Somebody's got to be free.
And Woodward shoots another 3, missed. Barry the rebound, and a bad pass. Intercepted by Dwayne Woodward.
Now, he will make his share because he's always looking for teammates.
And blew by Barry. Dumped it off, and Abrams was fouled on the way up.
I think they may have gotten Harpering on this. I thought it was a clean block on one side. Maddox, a guy that isn't known for his passing, may able to make that 3, but the recipient this time, Drew, who sort of instigates their offense.
Foul was on Harpering, his first. Well, Coach Crimmins, Matt told us yesterday, still calls him hoppin'. They have Crimmins-isms, the players yesterday telling us about Bobby's use of the language. They sometimes have a tough time figuring out what he means when he calls breakfast breakfast. We throws, hoppin', as we said, and he frequently refers to Stephon Marbury as Travis, a reference back to Travis Best.
It's amazing when you listen to him. He stopped praying to St. Patrick. He found out he wasn't from the Bronx.
9:20 left in the half. We check other scores. They've reached the half. And Arizona has the lead over Iowa. Harpering out of the corner. Antonio Granger just in the game with the rebound. He's fouled by another player just off the bench, Gary Saunders. The freshman from New York City whistled for his first foul.
And Bobby thought that he would be an important guy in this game. Make a couple of threes, slash to the goal. Well, 5 New Yorkers he's had over the years coming down to play at Georgia Tech.
Andy Bedard into the lineup for BC, number 32, guard. Woodward, as we said, in a shooting slump. Antonio Granger has been as well. He lets one fly and buries a 3, so that's a good sign for BC. Both Woodward and Granger have been struggling with their shots, knocking in the first ones today.
And how about that, Dan, yesterday, saying that Jimmy O'Brien told Granger, you keep shooting, don't worry about it. They looked at one another, they say, and Jimmy said it was just mentally, let him relax a little bit.
You can't get out of the slump if you don't keep shooting. Barry, he drains a 3.
Off penetration. I mean, that's the secret against any combo. You saw Cincinnati do it against Temple. Same thing here. Make the pinch occur.
Granger, after making the first, tries another that rims out to Maddox.
Not a good look.
Harpering fouled on the way up by Woodward.
Play on. Good, solid defense. But Drew Barry, we spoke to Rick a little while ago, much like his dad, he loved to give it up this time, and Rick could fill it up as well. Drew, maybe the heart and soul of this team.
And Rick talked about they're just happy to be here, particularly Drew. It's been a disappointing 4 years in terms of the NCAA tournament while Drew's been at Georgia Tech. In his freshman year, they lost to Southern in the first round. Then they did not make the tournament the last 2 years. So Drew Barry in particular felt the pressure of trying to get back into the tournament and do well because the tournament's been a big disappointment during his time.
And Bobby felt the pressure of getting in it this year and everybody bringing it up. Well, they waited a while. He had a lot of nicks too, and these are the offsprings of Rick and Pam.
We're on the national championship team. John, as we mentioned, played at Georgia Tech, and Drew out of, or rather Brent out of Oregon State to be a rookie standout for the Clippers this year.
And what a performer. He's a lot like Rick in the lankiness, and Drew plays a lot like him as well. Nice post play.
And Barry the rebound. That's 4 rebounds for Drew Barry. Tech with the ball up by 2. Drew dribbled into traffic and a reach-in called on Scooney Penn. It's the 4th team foul against Boston College. And we'll return to Orlando in a moment. Yellow Jackets by 2. It's been a very evenly played game to this point. 5 ties, 9 lead changes, and the stats demonstrate how even the play has been. Bobby Crimmins, the ACC Coach of the Year this year. He led Tech to the ACC title. A whistle right off an inbound play with 7:49 left in the first half. The young man with the broom hadn't cleared the court as they inbounded. Georgia Tech with the ball, leading by 2. They have Stephon Marbury on the court with Saunders, Harpring, Elisma, and Barry. For BC, it's Bedard, Penn, Abrams, Jordan, and Granger.
And a lot of exchanging of people. That flash post by Elisma wide open. Didn't get much out of it. Maybe a kick opposite would have helped them.
Shot clock down to 12 as Barry gives to Marbury. And Bedard got a hand on the ball on the way up. Then Saunders came back to take it back. The shot clock did not reset. Now it does. And Barry shoots a 3. I think Drew thought the shot clock was running out because when he looked up it was at 5 and coming down.
And they switched it?
Then they switched it. And a steal by Marbury got the ball to Saunders. Jim O'Brien hollering at Don Rutledge. Why did the shot clock reset?
It didn't matter. When they made the goal before.
You're right. It did not matter. He shot it with 5 on the clock, and Drew was looking right at it.
A nice little screen here for Barry by Harpring.
And an air ball out of bounds to BC.
It's been off dribble. The little splice. Ineffective this time by Stephon, but they've been very good at finding spots. People in the right area. That's the opposite that Elisma didn't look for earlier. And with the clock running down, the look of satisfaction by D. Barry.
With a very solid first half. 11 points, 4 rebounds for Drew.
Oh.
Bodies fly as Barry hit the deck, and Abrams with the flush.
Oh, Jordan and Abram with a little bit of a discard. They play physical in there. Well, the whole Big East does.
Harpring guarded tightly by Jordan.
Oh, this is the 3rd one now. A little small change. Woolworth's basement.
That's just awful.
Yeah, nickel dimers. Come on there, Bill.
It's the same official every time.
Yeah,
Gracie with the quick whistle. Stephon Marbury makes a 3 and was fouled, and will have a chance for a 4-point play for Georgia Tech. Now leading by 6 with 6:03 remaining in the first half.
Everybody's talked about the Marburys. The brothers all played in college basketball. Zach's at Lincoln High. Eric came home from the Clipper camp and said, be a guard, Stephon. I didn't make the pros because I had those forward abilities, but right there, the range, we've seen the quick spurt, the quick feet, the presence of Stephon.
I mentioned Stephon had 3 brothers who played collegiately. Eric at Georgia, Donnie at Texas A&M, Norman at St. Francis, another brother on the way. Some say almost as good as Stephon. Zach.
Yeah, well, that's tough to live up to. He's got a regal way about him, though, doesn't he, when you talk to him? Very confident.
Andy Bedard's runner wouldn't go. Foul on the rebound action against Mickey Curley of Boston College. So the Georgia Tech lead is 7, their largest on the 12-2 run. There's the traveling Marbury family, which we were speaking a moment ago. And Stephon, without question, the most talented of the 4 who have played collegiately so far.
And what Bobby Crimmins said was that they taught him how to play. They brought him down the schoolyard, taught him to understand how to break people down, and all that experience he's taking advantage of. And this is just an extraordinary feel for the game and understanding. And that relationship of Crimmins and Marbury, reminiscent of Anderson and Crimmins and Price and Crimmins. And it just goes on for Bobby having a catalyst out there to run the show. The confidence in the guard.
Drew Barry made the first of a 1-and-1. That foul on Curley was the 7th against BC. Georgia Tech's been called for 3. And the Yellow Jackets lead by 9.
All right, so 33-24 is the score. We're glad you had a good game for you to go at while your game was delayed. Your game is getting ready to get back underway now. It's knotted at 16, North Carolina, Texas Tech. Let's go down to Larry Farmer and Ted Robinson.
Welcome back to Richmond, Virginia. North Carolina and Texas Tech had played almost 8 minutes in a tie ball game before Darvin Ham of Texas Tech rebounds this missed shot by Jason Sasser. And we have a new college basketball creature, Sir Ham-a-Lot, in the Darryl Dawkins tradition.
Well, you can really blame this on Sasser. He gets a makeable shot for him and he misses, and then in comes Ham. He's not boxed out.
And a brand new backboard has been brought in here from the bowels of the Richmond Coliseum. It has necessitated a delay. In fact, the teams were given a 5-minute warm-up once the backboard was replaced and fixed. Both players, as Larry talked about, there were players cut. No one was cut seriously. And in fact, Darvin Ham was out here kind of laughing about it before during the warm-up period.
Yeah, he was laughing, and then we noticed also that the rim that was busted, separated from the structure, they're actually putting a new backboard on that one should this happen again.
Well, Jamison, it was off to a great start for North Carolina before our break. 9 points and 4 boards. Darvin Ham with 3 slams already. And back to the more serious matters at hand here. A spot in the Sweet 16. Terry Holland, our NCAA tournament representative, right on top of things. They have another spare backboard, which they're going to attach to that support in case we have a repeat of this. Although Terry laughed, he said, I don't think we could take many more of these.
Or you start writing out one of those bills with Texas Tech on top of it.
North Carolina wearing the blue. They're the 6th seed. Texas Tech in white is the 3rd seed. And a spot in Atlanta to beat Georgetown next weekend is at stake here.
Whenever you've had a delay like this as a coach, you've got to be concerned that your players haven't cooled off or lost that edge, that feel for the game that you worked so hard for before this ball game. Your pregame talk, you come out, you warm up, and then you start the ball game.
And Sasser hits a 3 for Tech. Well, it's the beauty of youth. At our age, you worry about those things. These kids, they don't care, do they?
Oh, yeah, 28% three-point shooter. Sasser knocks that one down, but again, had he made that little runner, we never would have had that broken backboard.
Jason Martin, 5'10", listed at that, guarding 6'5" Jeff McGinnis. And Batee with a rebound for Tech.
That time, Jason Martin, excellent defense in keeping McGinnis right in front of him and not allowing him to penetrate. If he can do that and force McGinnis to take those 10, 12, 15-foot jump shots, really help the interior of that Texas Tech defense so they're not forced to rotate as much, and they'll do a much better job on that defensive board. 10 seconds on the shot clock.
Martin picking up his dribble high. And there's a bomb in the corner by Corey Carr.
Corey Carr coming in off the bench. He averages 16 points a game. Kingsland High School in Arkansas, you know, in high school as a senior, Corey Carr averaged a triple-double his senior year in high school.
Calabria with a miss. Loose ball to Tech. It's 2-on-1. Corey Carr. Tech with a run. And an 8-point lead. 10 in a row for the Red Raiders. And the Tar Heels haven't scored since we resumed play.
Well, you wonder which team could come out and reestablish the pace and the intensity of the ball game with the stoppage of it due to the broken backboard. And right now, the pendulum seems to have swung to Texas Tech side.
Martin with a good strip. Now Calabria, and a charge on Dante Calabria.
Calabria at the point of attack, beating his man. Darvin Ham coming over, stepping away from the basket and taking that charge. The nice 2-on-1 fast break, and then you see Carr instant points. Excellent three-point shooter, but ran the lane very nicely on that 2-on-1.
Well, they finally missed one on the new backboard. Corey Carr has one of the quick trigger fingers you'll ever see. 8 points for Tech, and since the interruption, of course, they had the basket that caused it. This is a 10-0 run. Shamon Williams in for North Carolina. He's guarding Corey Carr. Sasser is open. And that's out off Okulaja of North Carolina, who's doing a good job of blocking out Tony Battie, but could not hold the rebound.
Oftentimes, when you get a good matchup on the inside, you'll tell the defender, I don't care if you get the rebound, but if you're guarding a good offensive rebounder, you just box him out and then let the other 4 guys on our basketball team worry about getting to that missed shot.
Big rebound edge right now for Texas Tech. And Battie makes it 12 straight points for the Red Raiders. North Carolina survived this from New Orleans Friday. They were down 10 in the first half.
By the way, Texas Tech has started after the brief intermission. There must have been a lot of giggling and laughing about what happened.
Calabria back to Okulaja, who was fouled on the way in. The second Texas Tech foul of the ball game. The first on Tony Battie.
So you get back in the locker room and everybody's talking about what happened to the backboard. It could really loosen things up. You see the quick hand that time to Tony Battie.
It's funny, Jason Sasser, we had a chance to visit with him yesterday, and he was talking about coming off the mandatory press conference that players do here on the day before this game. And said, just don't talk to me about respect again. I'm tired of answering all my questions about respect. And, you know, they don't look at all like a team today that has any tightness about them.
You're talking about 4 seniors, and you know at any moment right now you're in a win or go home type situation. There's ever been more of a reason to be focused than to come out and give it all you've got, to play, relax, to do the best you can. It's in a game like this against North Carolina.
Okulaja's foul shot to Corey Carr, missing a 3. Ron Williams knocks it down for the Tar Heels. So that's 5 quick points. And with 7:49 to play in the first half, Dean Smith's team cuts into the Texas Tech lead. Gerald and Mary Sasser are here, the parents of Texas Tech All-American Jason Sasser. They drove from Dallas to Richmond, Virginia to watch their son play. It's one of the consequences of shipping teams far out of their region, is that families sometimes aren't able to afford the trips, and the Sassers had to make that long drive here, almost 1,200 miles. A foul on Texas Tech.
North Carolina in a zone defense.
Janae Cooper in the game for Texas Tech, picking up the foul. The 4th team foul on Tech. Our backboard replacement coverage here in Richmond, produced by George Vegas, directed by Artie Kemper, and Associate Director Marcy Kemper. Flicker is fouling a putback. They're also mixing in some nice basketball. And Kelly Raftery as well, our broadcast associate. Well, the emotional player for Carolina Friday night was Serge Zwicker. And coming back in off the bench, he's trying to add a little spirit to the Tar Heel effort. Texas Tech by 5 here in second round action in Richmond. Zwicker to the line, trying to score his first points today. This has been nearly automatic for Dean Smith. 14 times in the last 15 years, the Tar Heels have made it to the Sweet 16. 2 years ago, Boston College stopped that great streak, and Carolina was the #1 seed.
Carolina back in that zone, and they were able to force that last foul against Texas Tech. Texas attacking the zone by screening on the weak side and then looking either to penetrate and utilize the screen by the pass or skip past it and use that screen. That time, the screen too aggressive.
Sasser will adjust over Jamison. 9 for Jason Sasser. That stopped a 7-point North Carolina run.
That's as difficult a shot as you're going to see a man his size take in traffic without a clear look.
Calabria, tough assignment at the post. Defending Ham, they go right over the top, and Ham is fouled.
Talk about Sasser's versatility down on the low post. Now he takes the dribble, he keeps his dribble alive, and really doesn't get the true double team, so he still has time to go one-on-one and doesn't square up to the basket, shoots that jump hook, and when you make a shot like that without your shoulder square, you got to have a lot of touch and a lot of talent.
Vince Carter back in for North Carolina, replacing Shamon Williams. Coy Smith back for Texas Tech, replace Corey Carr. Very tough assignment for Dante Calabria. Not a post player and having to post defend Darvin Ham. Coming up, Pennzoil to half. Pat O'Brien and Clark Kellogg. Scores and highlights, the live look-ins of other games going on. All coming up with Pennzoil at the half.
Great ball with Calabria getting caught guarding Ham on the inside, and I really think that was not by design. I think by virtue of the fast break, Calabria got stuck with Ham, and Texas Tech just doing a marvelous job of recognizing the mismatch and then attacking it.
Calabria from the corner. Zwicker right over the back of Sasser. Used his height. McGinnis. Jason Martin running for Texas Tech. Carolina's now missed their last 5 shots.
Tough man-to-man defense.
Clear out for Sasser. Carter to the baseline. And Carter's called for the foul.
Vince Carter, a freshman, it's a tough assignment. He's guarding Jason Sasser. Now, he's got to get his knees bent, get his elbows in and not reach. Just play position. You see, a lot of hand checking, a lot of hand movement. That does 2 things. It either puts you in a position to get off balance by reaching out and get beat off the dribble. It also puts you in a position to draw the foul.
Jason Sasser to the pair.
Jason Sasser, Southwest Conference Player of the Year. 3rd team All-American this week by the Associated Press.
Heard an interesting story about his parents. When Texas Tech won the Southwest Conference Championship, Jason and his parents drove to Kimball High School, where his younger brother Gerald Jr. was playing, and watched him win the 5A state championships. A lot of championships won that day by the Sasser family.
North Carolina with the ball, Texas Tech by 6.
Worker open on the inside.
McGinnis going to run this ball down.
Nice
Louis
pass.
gave it up. Okulaja for 2. 2 toes are on the line. 2-pointer for Okulaja.
Now, the fans expected McGinnis to take that shot, and he was open, but he passes the ball to Serge Zwicker, who had an easy shot. Now, what that will do is you get the big fella the ball a few times, you watch how animated, how hard he works at the other end.
Jeff McGinnis has 2 baskets thus far, a 3 and a 2. Jason Martin in the lane again. It's a tough matchup. And McGinnis really utilizing on what's listed to be a 7-inch height advantage.
mind that so much as a coach because, again, you've only got one guy that's hurting you, and you're not putting yourself in situations where you're allowing McGinnis to beat you off the dribble and get it into the paint, and now he's dishing it off for much easier shots. If Martin can stay in front of him and force him to keep taking those kinds of shots by a little bit more pressure.
Oh, a three knocked down by Coy Smith. And the one thing that the North Carolina players told us yesterday, Larry, about the game Friday night was the ball moved. Everybody touched the ball. Everybody got shots. They were very enthused about the team chemistry Friday.
Well, North Carolina had 5 players lined up with double figures in the ball game against New Orleans, and the game was played with 19 assists.
Foul on Texas Tech. The Red Raiders lead by 5. On Final Four weekend, CBS Sports will bring you the McDonald's High School All-American game 2 weeks from today, March 31st at 2:30 p.m. And just today, we've seen 5 former McDonald's All-Americans: Othella Harrington, Georgetown 4 Tar Heels, and 2 others who I'm sure Dean Smith wishes were here today: Rasheed Wallace and Jerry Stackhouse. But always the premier high school senior talent in the country. The McDonald's High School All-American game, March 31st here on CBS.
Stackhouse and Wallace still here. Maybe they don't get Carter and Jamison.
Good point. Here's Jason Martin. The kick out. Get up there. Corey Carr missing a 3. Then on the rebound, a block out foul on Jason Sasser. That will be the 7th Texas Tech foul, putting North Carolina into the bonus.
You watch the defense right there. Martin reaching in and ever so quickly with that right hand, avoiding the over-the-top foul and stripping the ball away. Now that's where, although Martin at 5'10", he might be a little bit smaller than that, gives up a lot of size to McGinnis. His quickness of foot and the quickness of hands, he can present a lot of problems to Jeff McGinnis on the perimeter.
Antoine Jamison at the line. You know, those replays never seem to do the play justice, because we always see them in slow motion, and in slow motion they look so easy. At the speed at which this game is played, that's a remarkable strip of the ball. Zwicker using that 7-2 frame, and Jamison fumbling the ball, called for traveling.
Zwicker.
And Richmond, Virginia, new backboard. And Texas Tech scored the first 10 points after that backboard change was made. There's a 3 by Jason Sasser. And the Texas Tech Red Raiders with a 22-game winning streak. A 29-1 mark, the 3rd seed in the East. And they've had the lead over North Carolina most of this first half.
Well, Sasser really causing problems for the defense of North Carolina. North Carolina in the zone, and Sasser just taking a page out of the book of your consummate 3-player. Instead of burying himself in that 10 to 12-foot area where he's very comfortable, he's stepping out beyond the arc, and he's knocking those shots down.
Jason Sasser, Southwest Conference Player of the Year and a 3rd-team All-American. And he has scored 13 in the first half. Texas Tech has also been dominant on the boards. Elijah unable to hold the rebound. And it's the experience of the Texas Tech front line against 2 freshman forwards for North Carolina. There's a 3 for Corey Carr. And now the largest lead, 10 points for Texas Tech. They have not at all been fazed by playing North Carolina, and in front of a crowd that's largely for North Carolina. Jamison, that's 12 for the freshman in the first half.
Well, we talked early on about the respect factor and how you could be 29-1 and still have people all over the country saying that great record in your ranking in the top 10 by virtue of not having played anybody.
That's going to be Zwicker over the back. Well, Yes, it is. Carolina lining up at the foul line. Serge Zwicker over the back for his second foul. We had a delay here in the first half after Darvin Ham broke the backboard with a slam. Since then, Texas Tech has had the better of play, led by Sasser's 13 points and a dominant front court play. North Carolina now taking Serge Zwicker, their 7-2 center, out with his second foul. Vince Carter replacing him. That means 3 freshman forwards in the game right now for the Tar Heels.
And I would have liked to have been a fly on the wall of that locker room of Texas Tech during this break and watch the emotions of the players. You know, there had to be a lot of laughing and hand slapping.
Boy, don't you think it's going to continue? Corey Carr won't miss. 3 threes for the 6th man. And Tech leads by 11.
They list the hometown, Kingston, Arkansas, Corey Carr. The population, they just list it without numbers. They say triple figures.
Vince Carter with the drive as a reverse. And Tech leads by 9. Texas Tech on Friday won its first NCAA game in 20 years. They've never been to the Sweet 16. They're trying to get there to meet Georgetown.
Coach Smith's content to let this clock run down. North Carolina in a man-to-man defense, but playing off. Now they go man-to-man, and they'll trap out of this man-to-man.
Shot clock down. Carr makes another. 4 threes in the first half by Corey Carr, and that does not count. Calabria's shot too late. And James Dickey and Texas Tech dominating this game after the backboard delay. And in Richmond, Virginia, they have a 12-point lead. Texas Tech 44, North Carolina 32. CBS Sports exclusive coverage of the NCAA Basketball Championship continues after this message and a word from your local station. Texas Tech leading North Carolina by 12 at the half here in Richmond. This game was tied when the backboard was broken. It was 16 apiece. Texas Tech, with the new backboard, shot the lights out, most particularly guard Corey Carr, who made 4 threes. And if you're Darvin Ham and you're go in the locker room at halftime, and after you break a backboard, your team goes up 12, what are you going to tell the guys?
I say, well, as long as I'm not getting sent to Bill, I'll break another one for you.
I'll get 2 more. Texas Tech, whether that was a fuel for a spurt, only they can tell you, but they dominated the game after the backboard change. Carolina in blue with the ball, and it's Okalaja missing the 3. And the rebound kept alive, but Petit blocks Jameson's shot.
That's just a quick play.
And Sasser quickly gets 2 more for Tech. Texas Tech by 14.
Texas Tech, you come into this ball game, you're 29-1. You haven't gotten any respect. You're playing on national TV. What a better form by which your 4 seniors can demonstrate that the record is for real. They do belong here. They're a good basketball team.
Point lead for Texas Tech. North Carolina with the ball. Just over a minute into the half. Calabria had only 2 points in the first half. Now down low. Darvin Ham called for fouling Jamison. Now Texas Tech's only loss this year was to Eastern Michigan, also a tournament team, a Sweet 16 team, or they beat Duke in the first round and then lost to UConn yesterday. But James Dickey is up in that category where those other 3 schools are all #1 seeds, and he wants people to believe that his team should be mentioned in that threat.
Got a great opportunity to do that right now.
Calabria. Out of all of that, a timeout is called. Let's see. Did they get a timeout? Yes. Hoy Smith call timeout before a violation. So that'll be a 20-second timeout for Texas Tech.
And you watch the battle here for the loose ball. Coy Smith diving. Now, he doesn't have a lot of sweat on that jersey, so when he hits the floor, he doesn't slide very far. Because he stopped so abruptly, he avoided getting called for walking.
Well, he did that like he was a Tech football player diving on a fumble.
Now listen to this as he goes after the ball.
He fell on a ball. If you fall with the ball in your possession, that's traveling when you hit the floor. But he never had possession. He dove on the ball.
You can also hear that flash hit the floor, and that really caused him to stop abruptly.
Sasser. Jason Sasser has that look in his eyes. And he's showing people he can step out and play the game facing the basket. That's his third three, Larry.
You talk about going out the scouting report. You read about Sasser and his game being a prime time in the paint traffic player with a medium range shot. You know, as Coach Wooden always told us, you're guarding a player and he's not a good outside shooter. The first two are on me. I don't want you to play him. The third one, if he knocks it down, is on you.
Carolina wants the basket, and they're going to get it. Foul, Jason Martin. Well, I thought the official made the signal the basket to count, but apparently not. The inbounded baseline by Carolina. And a good flash, and then the pass thrown away by Carolina. There was no basket on the play. 2 team fouls now on Texas Tech.
Calabria spotting Jamison open on the inside, but the quick double team forced him to get rid of the ball a lot quicker than he wanted. You see Serge Zwicker going into the stands, going into that little railing that separates the crowd from the court.
Sasser just firing away as Texas Tech is 9 for 19. Nearly 50% from the three-point line. McGinnis missing. And Baty rebounds for Texas Tech. Oh, they went up for Darvin Ham again, and you know their collective breaths being held around this building every time Darvin Ham goes near a rim now.
And this is set up all the way. Martin keeping an eye down the floor. Gets it up, but it was good defensive transition by Jamison.
Coy Smith, the senior, hits a three. Tech by 18. They've made 10 threes.
Coy Smith, the senior, and Carr, who took 8 of those, knocked down 4 in the first half, still on the bench.
Calabria missing. Baty is fouled. That'll be Okalaja of the Tar Heels picking up the foul. Well, in a lot of ways, Larry, I guess it's a helpless feeling for the North Carolina side with the way Tech is shooting. When a team knocks threes down like that.
When you try and weather the storm and play good defense, get out there on the perimeter, get a hand up and play smart. And if you can force Texas Tech to miss a few shots, make sure you finish off the defense and box out, get on the board, and see if you can get back into this by getting a couple of cheap ones.
Look at Darvin Ham hits the rolling hook through the lane.
And Calabria appeared to have injured that right ankle. You see him trying to walk it off there.
Well, you look at the... Well, today it's unusual. Donde Calabria, one of the few players who wears low-cut shoes and low-cut socks.
And you can see from that picture that there really isn't a lot of tape on the ankle, if any. Having to fight through the traffic on the baseline down there, apparently rolled the ankle.
Antoine Jamison now being taken over to the bench by Tim Higgins, and something to do with the bandage on his arm. Now that is to cover up where he was cut by the glass of the broken backboard in the first half.
Some repaired work being done on that bandage. You don't know if there was any leakage or seepage of the blood, or that tape starting to pull loose. The referees just want that taped area cleaned up.
20-point Texas Tech lead. That's a foul on Dante Calabria. His second team foul. We get to the first timeout of the second half. Dean Smith. Dean Smith with unprecedented success in NCAA play. 22 consecutive years they've been in the tournament. Dean Smith with a 61 tournament wins. They had been to the Final Four or the Final 16, I should say, 13 consecutive years. That streak broken by Boston College 2 years ago, and they are in serious danger being sent home early by Texas Tech. The Red Raiders by 20.
Well, the key becomes stops and defensive rebounding. Half-court offense, share the ball, move it around, and try and get some cheap baskets to perhaps generate some momentum.
Look at Ham holding off Carter, and that, let's see if it counts. It will. Basket and a foul. Texas Tech's Darvin Ham has not missed a shot. He's 6 for 6 with a backboard today. We'll be taking you to see the end of the Louisville-Villanova game shortly in Milwaukee. For those of you who've been watching our game, you will return here. Just over 15 minutes to play.
Real sticky man-to-man defense. Tech really not allowing North Carolina to get any clear, clean shots early on in the possession.
Right now, Tech has outscored North Carolina 12-2 in the second half. Leading, as they were by 12 already at halftime.
All right, the big story of the tournament right now is that Villanova is right back into this game. 1:27 left against the Cardinals of Louisville. 63-60 is the score right now. Let's listen in to Jim Nance.
Okay. Let's see if they're trying to get that ball down inside to Walker. They are.
Let it too much. Rogers went over the top and led Walker too much.
That was an excellent call by Denny Crum, but it wasn't executed properly because it would have put Lawson in a position to have to either lay off or pick up his fifth.
Villanova can tie it with the 3. Kittles steps in for a 2. Lawson tries to save it, but into the hands of Tick Rogers.
Now Villanova's got to pick up quicker. They are not picking up full court, allowing Louisville just to take time off the clock.
44 seconds to go. 21-second differential on the clock.
And look at the box set by Denny Crum out here where Sims will pop out. They go 1-4 out of it.
Wheaton, one-on-one on Kittles. Fadeaway shots. Puts him up 5 with 26 seconds to go.
Against an outstanding defenseman, and Wheat gets it anyway.
Williams, stuck, comes up short. Kittles underneath, drops it in. 16 seconds, timeout. 65-62, Louisville ball with 16 seconds to go, Louisville ball. Louisville leading by 3 with possession. By the way, Nova's only committed 8 fouls, so a foul here would give Louisville only a 1-and-1, not a double bonus.
But Jim, they can't afford to allow this ball to go all the way down the court on a dribble. So
Kittles.
He wanted to steal, not the foul. Kittles did not want to foul that quickly.
And this is not a guy you necessarily want to put on the line either, but it'll be a 1-and-1 for Wheat.
Now remember, he shot the 2 technical fouls and buried them. And made the huge shot with Kittles on him just moments ago that really put Louisville in a great position. Now, what's so important here, Jim, you've got a 3-point differential. 1 shot made here makes it a 2-possession game. So really critical there. And I'm surprised that Denny Crum has Walker down under the basket here, because you sure don't want any push and foul.
Wheat made all of his free throws today, 4 of 4, 15 second-half points after being almost invisible the first 20 minutes. A 1-and-1 with 15 seconds remaining.
That was a big foul shot right there, because now you're on the 2-possession situation. This one would just be icing on the case. Denny Crum does not want a foul here.
You could hear him barking that out all the way across the court.
Sure. All he wants his team to do is to play solid defense.
Perfect again.
Villanova's got to come right down quickly. Go for 2. Go for a 2 here.
Williams driving. Blocked by Walker, and Wheat out of bounds. 7.9 seconds.
You go for a 2 here quickly, and that's what Williams did, but Samaki Walker came over with a great defensive play.
Need a quick basket off the inbounds. Lob it inside. Lawson. He got fouled. Someone was saying on the floor, no foul, as the ball was being inbounded, but they hacked Lawson underneath.
5.9 seconds. It's not a bad foul, though. It's only 4 on Samaki Walker, so he doesn't have to come out. Denny Crum's going to want a timeout to make sure everybody's on the same page. And, Jim, you know what this reminds me of? The intensity that built up for the Louisville match against potentially Kentucky back in 1983. What they called the game of the century in Kentucky.
Well, they're
on target.
Yep. All-America Kerry Kittles came back for his senior year for one reason: to lead his team to a Final Four. Something spectacular must happen in the final 5.9 seconds to keep that dream alive. Lawson at the line for 2.
Jim, that was so critical, because now Lawson should try to miss this shot. And that's probably what Denny Crum called the timeout for. Try to miss this and get the ball back.
Well, he made it. 3-point game, 5.9 seconds. Rogers clobbered. It's double bonus anyway, so he'll have 2 at the other end.
And that might have been the call on Lawson, the last guy you want. I realize there's only 4 seconds to go. That is Lawson's 5th foul. He shouldn't have been in a position to commit the foul there.
Well, a 75% free throw shooter to the line for 2.
Jim, on that last situation, what you're trying to do is to keep the game alive if you're Villanova. Lawson should not have tried to make that shot. You know, you miss it, you get the ball back, you take a chance, because now you're in a situation, you know you have to foul Louisville, and anything that they make still creates a 2-possession game.
Timeout, Villanova. 4.5 seconds remaining here, with Louisville at the line, leading by 3. Jason Lawson, Jr. has fouled out. There's another year to play at Villanova. 23 points, 9 rebounds, and 3 blocks today. But Tick Rogers, 75% shooter at the line, will shoot 2. 1 could all but seal it. Villanova still alive.
Now, Jim, here's what you got to be thinking about if you're Louisville. If you miss this shot, they can tie you with a 3. You can't let them take a 3.
Here's the big one. Tick Rogers. Yes.
Now they can let them take whatever they want.
Williams loses control of it. Louisville's on its way to the Sweet 16.
Jason Lawson, the man who gave everything out here today, shaking hands. That was about as well an executed game as you could have on the part of the Louisville Cardinals.
Kerry Kittles' magnificent career at Villanova has has come to a close, surprisingly, in the second round.
Well, the second Big East team goes out this afternoon, Jim. BC going out earlier. Samaki Walker, the non-starter off the bench, another big game, and Juan Wheat. Terrific second half, huh?
Unbelievable second half for Wheat. He had 17 in the second half.
22 in the first half the other night.
Louisville is headed to Minneapolis. They're in the bracket, awaiting the winner of the Wake Forest-Texas game. Kentucky is also already qualified, along with Utah, for that Minneapolis site.
Of course, we had Louisville, Kentucky earlier this year. Kentucky.
Denny Crum and the Cardinals are going to the Sweet 16 round. You're going back to Richmond, where Texas Tech leads North Carolina 67-49, 8:17 left in the game.
Welcome back to Richmond, Virginia. And we're down to 8:13 to play. The third-seeded Texas Tech Red Raiders, a comfortable lead over North Carolina. The most notable thing that occurred while you were watching the Louisville-Villanova end was that Darvin Ham completed a jam on the basket that the Red Raiders are now shooting at, and it held up. He went for it at the other end, and he didn't get it.
There were several of us back here on press row that all leaned back and just kept our eyes focused on that backboard to see if it would stay up there.
There's been a dominant performance by Texas Tech since the backboard was broken. That was with 12 minutes remaining in the first half. Texas Tech has had an unconscious shooting day. They've made 12 three-pointers. Maybe the sign, the omen in this game, was Tony Petit, the Texas Tech center, making a three in the first minute of the ball game. It's the fourth one he made all year. Carolina's Shammond Williams with a foul. This winner grabs the last spot in Atlanta. UMass and Arkansas will play Georgetown, which beat New Mexico in a tough first game here. Will draw the winner of this game. Here's the play that delayed the game for 39 minutes in the first half. And it's just remarkable. That slam tied the game at 16 from that point on. Once play resumed, this game has been all Texas Tech.
That's great. Great line. 14 points, 2 rebounds, 1 backboard.
Jason Martin, 1+.
Jason Martin at the line for Texas Tech. You always wonder about the impact those things had, because there was a 39-minute delay while the backboard was replaced. But the way Texas Tech played once the game resumed, you'd think that was the best thing that ever happened to them.
Well, you know, you go through that whole ritual of getting your team prepared to come out and play, and they're focused, and then all of a sudden a delay of any kind. As a coach, you're certainly concerned that your players will be able to take over where they left off. But the Texas Tech locker room must have been very loose, very relaxed, a lot of hand slapping, a lot of laughing. They've got a lot to prove. You've got 4 seniors starting your lineup, but they certainly came out and they were ready to play.
Tech led by 12 at the half. And the first 6 minutes of this half, they extended their lead into the 20s. And right now it's at 21.
When you get the three-point shooting from 3 different players, Sasser, Smith, and Carr, they really almost became indefensible because those shots were coming from all different sorts of people from all different spots on the floor.
And this man, Corey Carr, 16 points. He made 4 threes in the first half. Jason Sasser, Texas Tech's All-American forward, has had an unconscious game, 23 points, including 4 threes.
Number 00,
Boy Smith.
That's team foul number 6.
2 on Smith, 6 on the team, and for Dean Smith, it had been a very helpless feeling for much of the second half. 7:03 to play in Richmond. In Richmond, Texas Tech leading North Carolina by 23. James Dickey and Texas Tech trying to get to the Sweet 16 for the first time try to turn March in West Texas into basketball time.
A lot of stories going around about Coach Dickey and how superstitious he is. Say after a practice, he's always got to make a shot before he leaves the floor. Whether that be a 3 or a 2, that's one of the rituals that Coach Dickey goes through. He's got to make that last one before he leaves. Might have made a couple of them yesterday.
Was he well enough to shoot one yesterday?
You're in the gym, and that's a superstition. You have to have one of your assistants hold you up.
Traveling called on Corey Carr. And not only Texas Tech looking to advance, but Texas, which will be taking on Wake Forest in the second game from Milwaukee, hoping to join Louisville, which knocked out Villanova. So 3 Big East teams to the Sweet 16, 4 SEC. Wake Forest will try to make it 2 out of the ACC. As Tony Battie picks up the foul.
Tony Battie is whistled for his third personal.
That'll be the next game coming up here on CBS. You'll see either the Texas Wake Forest game from Milwaukee or Santa Clara trying to knock off another giant as they will meet Kansas in the West at Tempe, Arizona.
Nice little matchup in the backcourt. Steve Nash. Jock Vaughn.
The increasing international flavor of college basketball. Steve Nash from British Columbia, and a player that a lot of folks think is going to be a first-round draft pick in the NBA this summer. Team in Vancouver likes him a lot.
I've heard him compared to John Stockton and his cerebral approach to the game and the fact that he's an excellent shooter off the dribble.
You can't deny what Santa Clara's done. They didn't win their conference tournament. They're still gaining that large bid, and Santa Clara earned that with some great non-conference wins. In the corner, that's a 3 for Vince Carter. North Carolina trying to mount one run here. They have not challenged Texas Tech at all in the second half. Still 5.5 minutes remaining.
Carolina trying to trap now.
And a foul called on Calabria. If Wake Forest wins, they would join Georgia Tech in advancing out of the ACC to the Sweet 16. But it's been unbeaten SEC, and just the Villanova loss for the Big East. And BC about to join that as they're about to be defeated by Georgia Tech. Hoy Smith at the line for Texas Tech. Next year, Texas Tech and Texas will join the new Big 12 as the Southwest Conference will be disbanded. A conference that Texas Tech had to take unusual measures to join. Back in the 50s, they were being held out of the Southwest Conference. They felt by folks in the Dallas area. They organized a boycott at the Neiman Marcus stores. Told all the folks in West Texas to clip their credit cards, mail them to Calabria stores, mail them to a member of the Southwest Conference board who was also from SMU and was on the Neiman Marcus board. So this guy got barraged with a bunch of cut-up Neiman Marcus credit cards, and guess what? Texas Tech got in the conference. The tee is fouled as Carolina prevents the dunk.
Sasser getting it done right there. He's double teamed. He finds Battie coming to the basket. And again, Battie very smart, going up with 2 hands. He gets fouled. He still has a chance to make that shot. Just a nice look. Extra pass by Jason Sasser.
Tony looks like he's going to keep on going. Tony's brother, Derek, played his last game for Temple today, as Temple was knocked out by Cincinnati. Texas Tech found about Tony Battee when they were trying to recruit Derek. Tony Battee has grown 4 inches since Texas Tech signed him as a high school senior.
That's excellent recruiting when you can recruit a guy, feed him well, and then he sprouts 4 inches on you.
And a good feed, Calabria to Jamison for the dunk. And North Carolina takes a timeout with 4:40 to play. In Richmond, Texas Tech leading North Carolina by 18 points. This looking like it may be the last game for Dante Calabria at North Carolina. With the Heels going to try to crank the defense up, but there's the long feed to Battee. Texas Tech shooting 61% today. Had a remarkable game, and McInnes doing his best to keep the Heels in it. That's 19 now for Jeff McInnes.
You've got to pay particular attention now when you push up your defense like North Carolina is trying to do now the last 4 minutes plus of this ball game, to take care of the backside of the defense and defensive transition.
Ray Carr going right in. That shot blocked, but Tech and Tony Battee fouled by Jeff McInnes. It'll be the 18th foul in North Carolina, so Texas Tech is in the 1-1. Texas Tech, of course, trying to make the Sweet 16 for the first time in men's basketball. The Red Raiders had a great run in women's basketball. The Texas Tech women won their first round game in the women's Midwest region. They beat Portland on Friday. Just trying to keep spring football off that front page for a little while longer.
And this just might do that. Battee awfully close to a double-double. You know, you're down 17 points. You're down 18 points. You certainly need to get some stops, and if North Carolina's going to extend the defense, they've got to get back in transition. Hopefully, you want Texas Tech to shoot quickly or turn the ball over against your pressure, miss, and then sort of chip your way back into it.
Carolina's starting to get hot. Threes are falling now. They've made 4 of them in the last couple of moments. This is the closest North Carolina has been in the entire second half.
When they go to a half-court man, they'll trap whenever they get an opportunity. Try and force the turnover, but certainly if they get Texas Tech to shoot the ball or shoot it quickly, you cannot allow the second shot opportunity or the reset of the offense to allow more time to be taken off the clock.
Texas Tech looking very fresh. They basically played on their 6 men as Carolina's called for a foul. Tech has gone with 6 men most of the way. 7th player, Janae Cooper, has made a couple of cameos. And Dean Smith, who has gone all year with just 7 men. Hoping that his team has enough bounce to mount a comeback. Jason Martin, 64% foul shooter. Martin with just 2 points today, but 8 assists. Texas Tech will shoot 2 the rest of the way. North Carolina has committed 10 team fouls.
Jason Martin sadly lost a brother, Todd, this last spring to pneumonia. He passed away, and Jason Martin dedicating this season in the memory of his brother.
Calabria inside. Finally, it's knocked out to McInnes. Forcing one. And there's Battee. And a foul on Carter of Carolina. Very upset as he reached in to strip the ball from Tony Battee. That looks like Carolina's going to make Texas Tech finish this off at the line. 3:08 to play, and the Tar Heels fouling.
Texas Tech, a 66% free throw shooting team, and this is the strategy that you want to employ at the end of any ball game that you're behind. Extension of the defense, double teaming, trying to pick up the pace of the game. 3-point shooting.
Don't forget to stay with us for more NCAA second-round action following. You'll see either the Santa Clara, Kansas game or the Texas Longhorns and Wake Forest.
Come on, man.
The team making 1 of 2. A 17-point Texas Tech lead. Vince Carter. And Calabria holding it. And big rebound by Batiste. He's fouled again.
Number 15, Vince Carter, whistles for his.
Well, if Texas Tech finishes this up as we think they will, they're going to be in the Sweet 16.
Well, you're looking there and you see Kentucky. That Kentucky-Utah matchup will be an awfully good one. Rick Majerus, of course, getting Keith Van Horn back, who didn't play. Everyone talks about Kentucky. You go down Cincinnati, Danny Fortson, Louisville, Denny Crum, Arizona, Lute Olson. Great time of year. You saw an interesting stat coming into this ball game. Texas Tech had made 519 free throws. Their opponents had only attempted 489. It's 296 more free throws they attempted than their opponents.
When you make more than your opponent's attempt, as that ball is dribbled out by Shammond Williams, but he's fouled on the way. There are a couple of the highly ranked teams in the country every year do that, and it's usually the Indiana theory. That Indiana teams almost every year make more than their opponent's attempt.
Well, they've taken 11 more today. You start getting those kind of statistics in your favor and combine that with good shooting, great three-point shooting, and excellent defense. Again, that 29-1 record starts to look a little bit more realistic and justified.
Williams missing his front end, and Batiste is fouled again. Jeff McInnes fouling.
Number 5, Jeff McInnes.
2:44 to play. A 19-point lead for Texas Tech. And they're heading, although with the way the fouls are going here, it's going to take a while for them to get there, but they're going to go to Atlanta to meet Georgetown. And unless North Carolina mounts a miracle here, there's going to be an unexpected early trip home for DC. Batiste has made 7 of 9 from the foul line here in the second half. Is that a double-double? Tech with a 20-point lead. Tech really defending well. Okalaja missing. And a foul on the rebound. It's going to put Calabria at the line. Georgia Tech and Cincinnati, the 2 and 3 seeds, the expected teams advancing out of the Orlando region. They'll be at Lexington, Kentucky next weekend.
Number 15, Vince Carter.
Cincinnati, a team that got a number 2 seed, but one of a couple that had a legitimate case to be a number 1 seed. I really think Cincinnati is going to be a difficult team for anybody to knock out.
Because they play really good defense, and that's important, especially when you get to this level in the tournament, because a lot of the games stop being up-tempo, fast break teams, and you have to be able to get in your half-court set and run half-court offense and defend half-court.
Carolina trying to press. And there's another foul. Recapping the first weekend of tournament play, UConn and Mississippi State coming out of Indianapolis. And they'll also be heading to Lexington. UConn with a number 1 seed. They're also trying to reach that elusive Final Four with all the great successes that the Huskies have had under Jim Calhoun. That's the one thing that's eluded them.
In Mississippi State, Eric Dampier really stepped up his game. Terrific force on the inside. you start talking about you get to the Sweet 16, you have to be able to execute your half-court offense, but more importantly, you have to be able to defend and rebound, and that's where that good post play comes in.
Well, the drive back to Dallas is going to be very happy for Jason Sasser's parents. It's going to go very quickly. And they're going to turn that car right around in a couple of days and head back to Atlanta. There's a three by Shamon Williams. And a timeout. Well, North Carolina's saying let him play, though. Dean Smith's team called a timeout, but I think they simply want to set a press up.
Not so much the press, but get those substitutes in.
With Larry Farmer, Ted Robinson back in Richmond, Virginia, Texas Tech leading North Carolina by 17. Texas Tech heading to the Sweet 16. They can play out these final 2 minutes and 10 seconds without a catastrophe. And North Carolina, during that timeout, has emptied the bench. Dean Smith bringing in a whole new group of players, including his walk-ons. Texas Tech staying with their big people, and Jason Sasser knocking down Charlie McNary with an elbow, and Sasser picks up the foul, his second. And now, getting the ball back, here comes the platoon. Two platoon basketball, huh?
You know, early on, Coach Smith, before the institution of the 35-second shot clock, used to platoon teams in, and to rest his first five would put in a blue team and designate only one player to shoot, so they might get in and take the ball, run four corner, and take 4 or 5 minutes off the clock while the first team rested, and unless that player that was designated to shoot the ball got it, they didn't shoot at all.
Roy Smith, Corey Carr, as they picks up the foul. 10 team fouls now on Texas Tech, so this will be 2 shots for North Carolina. This has had to seem to Tech like the second half that just won't end. They can taste it. They played so well, but these last couple of minutes, they have to really work to finish this. Shamon Williams. Georgia and Syracuse advancing out of the Albuquerque region. Syracuse one of 3 Big East teams. Georgia one of 4 from the SEC. And a very disappointing early end of the season for Gene Cady and his Purdue Boilermakers. Shamon Williams making 1. 86-70 is the score. And Martin dribbling through, beating Sasser. 27 for Jason Sasser.
The value of that small, quick man, the three-point line, the ability of a smaller player to knock that shot down, but certainly as evident there by Martin, dribbling through and attacking a full-court press.
And Tony Battie puts it home. And now they can start to celebrate, although McInnes got hurt for Carolina. McInnes was trying to foul. He took a swipe at Jason Martin and hurt himself. And now Dean Smith will bring back the reserves, including the walk-ons, and I would think this time for good, with 1:21 to play.
I think on that initial substitution and getting all of the reserves in, Coach Smith realizing that there might still be a small chance to jump back in this ball game, especially after the missed free throw, inserted the starters, but now the lead back up to 20 points with just over a minute left to play. This is virtually over.
Charlie McNary of North Carolina fouling, and now James Dickey will start to make some reserve, bring some reserves in. Stan Bonowitz in, Janae Cooper. Jason Martin and Tony Battie will sit. Well, the Red Raider fans are about as supportive and loyal as any group in the country, and they gobbled up the available tickets for Richmond. Texas Tech.
How many of you had Texas Tech on your brackets? If you did, congratulations, and advanced them on, beating North Carolina. It's 91-70 now, still a minute and 11 ticks left on the clock. Over in Milwaukee, they're about to tip Texas and Wake Forest at the Bradley Center. Game just underway right there. Here's Jim Nance.
Freshman for Texas, Clack, is jumping center, but controlled by Wake.
The other thing is to watch Rutland early. See how he's moving on that with that knee and that heavy brace.
LaRue inside and Wake Forest, just as you draw it up, scoring on its first possession, basket by Sean Allen.
Beautiful touch pass by Rusty LaRue off that cut.
Clack back out.
We're talking about a team that takes 70 shots a game, so there's no question about what Texas wants to do.
Reggie Freeman forcing the action and draws the foul against Ricky Peral. So Freeman doesn't have a real strong shooting percentage from the outside, but he averages about 23 points a game.
Well, Jim, you're right. He shoots 38% from the floor and 32% from three. But I said again, he's a scorer, not a shooter. He figures out ways to get it up there. What's got to happen here today, there's a real contrast in styles. Wake Forest has only had 2 teams score over 70 points a game on them all year. Maryland and Florida State. And of course, we know that Texas is a team that likes to score and run up and down the floor. So something's got to give here. Full court pressure. Nice fill by LaRue. Beautiful passing. Hand check, so it's going to be called tight.
What usually gives when you have that contrasting matchup of styles?
Well, I always go for the team that plays the solid D. You know, I think it's hard to blow a team out that's played solid D all year long. And, of course, if you're Texas, you want to get it started early, as Freeman does there with a great steal.
And so there are now 15 seconds left. You saw the beginning of one game. You'll see the end of your game up on the left-hand side corner there. Clock ticking down, and North Carolina goes down by 20. Their subs are in right now. And Texas Tech will advance in the tournament and will meet Georgetown in the Sweet 16. And that's why they're smiling. 2.5 seconds left on this. It's a big surprise, Clark Kellogg.
I tell you what, just because a lot of people didn't know about Texas Tech, but if you watch this game, you saw a display and a clinic in terms of attacking pressure, hitting the open man, knocking down threes, and then making your free throws as North Carolina tried to mount some type of comeback.
Sweet 16 a little lonely without Dean Smith. He's been there 15 in the last 16 seasons. Let's go back to Milwaukee and Texas and Wake Forest. Tie ball game now. Billy Packer and Jim Nance.
So we have a contrasting matchup of styles. Texas likes to play up-tempo, and it really has been a little up-tempo here in the first 2 minutes.
Clack with great quickness and anticipation. You have to be careful when you're throwing the ball in his direction.
Duncan fouled by Alvarado.
Alvarado got stuck that time with Clack and couldn't get over to Duncan, who was wide open. So far, you see LaRue handling the ball a lot, Jim. He's seeing the open men very well.
Tim Duncan, who will not turn 20 until next month. 67 straight starts for Wake Forest. The ACC Player of the Year.
And tournament MVP as well. Straight man-to-man. Let's watch this matchup on Freeman.
Clack outside, freshman, right on target. Three-pointer.
Jim, Clack was not starting earlier in the year. He only was averaging a little under 9 points a game. But since he's gone into the starting lineup, you're looking at a guy that's capable of averaging about 15 or 16 a game.
First McDonald's High School All-America ever recruited to the University of Texas.
Bad place to pick up your dribble against this team.
Underneath.
Boy, there are some strange matchups out here. That time Hill gets caught on Peral, giving up about a foot.
I was watching underneath as Alvarado and Duncan have an interesting chess match trying to get to the blocks.
Well, Alvarado would normally be a tough guy for Duncan anyway. A little bit smaller, great strength.
Rutland, he has never made a shot in the NCAA tournament from the field. Now 0-14 in his career. Hill.
Good blocking out by Texas.
Freeman gets it back for the Longhorns. Charge.
Alvarado and Freeman just shocked Wake Forest inside. They've got quite an advantage in strength when you take a look at the athleticism on these two teams.
This is a Texas team that probably looked at the draw last Sunday and said, oh my goodness, if we get to the second round, we've got to go against another unbelievable